What's up, everybody? It's time for another Full Draw Friday. This one is number 11. Time for the last Full Draw Friday of the 22-23 season. Here in Illinois, at least, we're heading into the last weekend. Sunday will be officially the last day of the season. Some of the counties right now will be having the late winter antlerless season, CWD season, whatever they're calling it now. Several of the counties don't have that. We don't have it in our county now, and several of them around us don't either. So there is still opportunity to get out there and bow hunt, though, whether you're just looking to fill the freezer, fill that last tag, maybe you're still after your buck, and there's opportunity to harvest that buck here in the last weekend as well. And that's what I'm going to talk about. You know, throughout the year, we'll say a lot of times, hunt smart. Don't take any big risks that are unnecessary. Don't take too many chances of bumping your target deer. Now you can essentially hunt like there's no tomorrow because there basically isn't. And I understand that this is Friday and there's Saturday and Sunday still, but that's 2 more days of the season. And at this point, if the wind isn't perfect, if everything's not perfect, but you have a chance to still at your target buck and maybe your best stand, go in there and hunt that best stand. The worst case scenario, like say you go in this afternoon or even tomorrow morning and you bump them, okay, you killed your last chance of maybe tomorrow or a Saturday, a Sunday, or just Sunday. So you've lost 1 day of hunting them. But you got to go in there and take that chance now if you haven't got them yet. Essentially, the worst you can do, again, is ruin the rest of your weekend as opposed to the rest of your season. By the time next year rolls around, he's going to have forgotten about that. Deer deal with so many other things throughout a year, from trying to find food to make it through the winter, other predators, cover changing, ag crops changing, all that kind of stuff. By the time next October rolls around, they're not going to be worried about what happened in the middle part of January. So you're not going to mess him up for the next season. You might mess up the last day, the last 2 days, whatever, especially, though, if it's like Sunday. Obviously, there is no next day. So if you're still after that target buck, if it's one you for sure want to shoot this year, this is the time to get way more aggressive than maybe you would before. Maybe it's spot and stalking. Maybe it's just going to a spot, again, where everything is not perfect, but you got to take that chance. It's time of year to do it because you're not going to mess anything up. Throughout the rest of the year, obviously, we talk about being, and you can still hunt smart, but we talk about being more risk averse as far as making sure you're not hunting your best stands on those borderline days and stuff like that. All that kind of goes out the window right now because you're in that desperation mode because the clock's ticking. And after Sunday, you're going to have to wait 10 more months to get back out there. And that's another thing. Who knows, in those 10 months, that deer you're after, he might die from something else, natural causes or other predation. You might get hit by a car. So if you're wanting that deer, now's the time to be as aggressive as you possibly can stand and get out there and do it. Now, there's other scenarios where, like for me personally, and I know for Nate, Nate's not hunted, I don't think, the whole month of December. So for me on the North Farm, the deer that I think are left there are deer that I would have shot earlier this year, but at this point, if they're still there, I'd just as soon let them go and have another year and see what they turn into next year. That's kind of the same place that Nate's at with the 3 deer that he thought he might shoot this year. I know he passed on one of them during shotgun weekend. We talked about that a little bit, but he's to the point where it's just as well for him to go out there and not tempt himself with shooting one of those deer. They've made it this far. See if they can make it to next year, grow another set of horns and see what they turn into at 5.5. And that's what, again, I've got going on with the North Farm. There's a couple deer there that, one of them is the Spencer. I know he was around after the second gun season, so I haven't seen him in a while. I pulled all my cameras from there and checked him. He wasn't on there since the last time I had seen him, which was before the last gun season. But again, I know the neighbor had seen him after the second weekend, so he's a deer that, even though he's busted up, I probably still would shoot this last weekend. But again, I'd rather be targeting that split buck at the cabin than Spencer. and let Spencer maybe grow another year, because he could really turn into something special. He's still a pretty narrow or pretty skinny framed deer. He doesn't have a lot of mass, so he's got potential to really blow up next year, and I already think he's pushing 170. So, and that'll give him a chance to grow back all those tines that are busted up. So, save some taxidermy work anyway on the back end if I can get on him again. But like at the cabin, for example, I have 2 different stands there. I'm gonna go to, and I'm gonna check the camera. One of them has the cell cam is either dead or really close to it. I haven't got anything out of it in a while, so I need to check it. I need to check the other camera in the other spot, and then if I've got a picture of that split 3 buck on either of those cameras, that's probably where I'm gonna hunt, regardless of how perfect the wind is or all that. I'm gonna have to take my chances and go out there and hunt them, and that'll probably be tomorrow or Sunday, one of the 2 days, maybe both days, but I doubt it. So I've probably got 1 day of hunting left to get out there after them. I don't know if I'll put that up on the YouTube channel or not. We'll just have to see how it all goes. But that's kind of the mode you got to be in right now, is if you have some recent information of that buck being in there, that's where you got to be, regardless of whether your wind's just right. Obviously, you don't want to go in there if it's blowing over where you think he's staying, because then you're just not going to see him anyway. So you might have to find an alternate route in. But if your wind at the stand is not, even if it's not blowing perfect, and he might catch it, if you've got just enough window where maybe you could shoot him before he catches your wind, at this point you got to go for it. And then even if he does catch your wind again, you're not really hurting yourself that much. So that's really kind of the last weekend strategy, I guess. And of course, food is still going to be really important. If you've got the food, that's probably where you're going to have that recent information from where that deer has been is probably on that food. If not, maybe it's between the food and the bedding. I know a couple, maybe a week and a half ago now, I talked to a guy who had slipped in the morning between a feeding area and a bedding area. He had good access, so he didn't bump anything out of the field when he was on his way in. And he had a really great hunt. It was like a mid-November hunt, bucks all over the place, nosing around some younger does, which you might see a little bit as well. If you got some of those yearling does that are just hitting that weight where they're coming into estrus, you might see some bucks chasing them. You might get lucky and have a mature buck following a yearling doe come by your stand, and you might have a November-type morning, but you can't count on that this time of year, so really got to focus in on the food, and that's probably where those does are going to be anyway. So if there is one that's coming in your area, it's probably going to be on that food. So you can go hunt around that. You can hunt on the food. Again, now's the time where even if you don't have great access in or out, you got to take your chance, go out there and sit on that food source, and then if you got to blow the field out when you're walking out, big deal. You're not really hurting yourself too bad. So that's something else to take into consideration as far as not just necessarily when you're in the stand, but again, access. If you can only get to that stand through the feeding field and you can only hunt one of these last 3 evenings, you might as well go for it, especially if that buck's been in that area. So, and same goes for filling a doe tag too. There's going to be a lot of those feeding out pretty early right now. If you've got a good food source, you can get out there and do the same thing with them, and you're probably going to have a pretty good chance at taking one of those before dark. So could be a good strategy for that as well. If you're just trying to fill that last tag or fill the freezer with a big old doe, this is a good time of year to do that as well. So that's what I'm looking at. That's probably going to be your best chance if you do still have that target buck out there for this time of year in these last 3 days, and you might as well get out there if you can, at least one of these days, if you can get out there for all of them, because, again, it's going to be 10 more months before we can get in the woods again with a bow in our hand. So take advantage of what little bit of the season is left. Get out there and see what's around, because you never know. You're not going to shoot them if you're staying at home. And while we talk a lot about throughout the rest of the year again, sometimes maybe staying at home is better. Right now, you got nothing to lose. You might as well be out there as long as you can stand it. It's not horribly cold around here right now. So I think the high today is like 35, 36, something like that. So that's not too bad, especially for middle January. Get out there, layer up a little bit, and then see what comes by. I know this weather actually just moved in, so might have some decent movement on some food, like this afternoon especially, and then may catch them coming back tomorrow morning. They might be feeding late tomorrow morning, and then take your chances Saturday afternoon and Sunday as well. That's pretty much all I got for you. hopefully that helps. If you're worried about bumping a deer this time of year, don't be. There's not any reason to be. He's gonna come back next year. I don't know if anybody's ever been told that, once you spook him, he's gone forever, but that's just completely not the case. He's gonna move off likely through the summer anyway, and completely forget about what happened back in his fall winter range. So that's what I got for you this week, guys. Remember, if you want to, you can go to ridgehunteroutdoors.com, use discount code FULLDRAW, that's all caps, no spaces, and you get 10% off anything on the website. We're still doing that giveaway on Apple Podcasts, so leave us a review there. If you're one of the first 25 to do that, when we hit 25 reviews, we'll draw a name from that pool, and then that will be the winner of the Wild Game Innovation Spark 2.0 trail camera package. Also, remember to follow us on Spotify so you know when all this stuff comes out. And then same goes for YouTube. Subscribe to the channel there. Like and comment any of the videos you like. We'll have more stuff coming up for you this spring, and then throughout the summer, we'll do some off-season kind of series videos. Like I said, I don't know if I'll have another vlog update or not. It just kind of depends on how the rest of the weekend goes, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And if you want to keep up with what does come out, again, hit that subscribe button, and then I think you got to hit a notification bell too. And that way you know when stuff comes out, you'll be one of the first ones on it. So appreciate you guys listening, tuning in every week throughout the season. This is our first year for the Full Draw Friday. I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out so far. And all you guys that have tuned in, again, thanks for that. And we'll do another one next Friday. So we'll see you then.